Hello and welcome to Adventures in Venueland, an EAMC podcast. This is your all-access pass to go backstage and behind the scenes with some of the brightest minds that cross the scope of the live entertainment industry. I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. We'll introduce you to some of our favorite people as we dive deep into the world of live touring shows and the venues that host them.
Our adventure today takes us to Oakland. From Run DMC in the early 80s to Nelson Mandela to Stevie Wonder, Jamie Foxx, Lionel Bea has seen it all. He's the director of operations and co-founder of Bay Area Productions. Nearly 4 decades as an entertainment executive. We're talking booking, negotiating contracts, concert budgets, creating, developing concepts. So much to talk about today. Lionel, thanks for making the time for us.
All right, guys. Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Hey, first, for somebody who has never heard of Bay Area Productions, give us the brief overview of what you guys do.
Well, Bay Area Productions is a company located in Oakland, California. And we are an African-American owned company, business, and we produce concerts. And we produce concerts in the urban space, mostly Black artists, R&B music, hip-hop, comedy, gospel. We've done it all. Blues. So from Stevie Wonder to Ice Cube is what I like to say.
You guys, did I hear that you guys just signed Mary J. Blige hot off the Super Bowl?
Well, my company is Bay Area Productions, but we joined up with 5 other African-American owned promoters in the country, and we formed an alliance called the Black Promoters Collective. So yeah, as the Black Promoters Collective, we just signed Mary J. Blige to a national tour to start in the 3rd or 4th quarter of this year.
That's awesome.
Tell me a little bit more about the Black Promoters Collective, how that all came about.
So I've been in business at Bay Area Productions for about 37 years, right? And so I've promoted a lot of urban shows in Northern California, and I've had a few tours around the country. So there are other guys just like myself in other cities, whether it's New York, Philly, Detroit, Houston, or whatever. And so when the pandemic hit, business was in the tank because the music business and live performances and large gatherings were the first thing to go when the pandemic hit America. Right. So some of us Black promoters got on the phone and started discussing how could we survive during the pandemic, and to make sure that, we just put something in place that could to just ensure that once the pandemic was over, that we can come out of it. And so during those conversations, we all decided to come together and instead of buying local dates on major artists, well, why don't we buy the entire tours as a collective?
Nice.
And in that way it would, ensure our survival.
I think that's a perfect example of kind of ingenuity out of necessity, right? That so many people have had to do during that last couple of years. It's one of those things where your back is up against the wall and you're like, oh my gosh, we've got to think of a way for us to band together, come out of this stronger. But it's such an awesome thing that happened, and that now you're better for it, on the other side. Because I think as you spoke to it, it allows you to book these larger tours and gives you a lot more negotiating weight to kind of compete against other promoters. Hopefully it's something that, it's been a crazy freaking, couple of years for everyone, but maybe that's a kind of a bright spot out of it. Would you say?
Yeah, most definitely. A man's natural instinct is to survive. And so when you have an entrepreneur like everyone in our group is in the Black Promoters Collective, the first thought is how are we going to survive? How are we going to take care of our families and keep our businesses going? And so the best thing to do is to come together. And out of it, I think that there is a cultural significance to us coming together because as Black promoters, we are often the ones that discover these artists, the Black artists, or promote them first. And then when they get a little larger, sometimes the big rock and roll promoters will come along and notice them and then offer them big money and take them away. And so then we're left in the lurch as to say, well, wow, what do we do now? And so, back in the day, when the record labels were stronger, new Black artists would emerge. So we'd have the opportunity to just jump on the next thing because we're part of the culture that the music is servicing. But now that the labels are basically gone away or not as important and relevant as they were before, the pool of talent that's out there is what it is. And so, we have to fight for our share of it. And that's what we're doing. But just historically, we've always been the first ones to, promote Janet Jackson and Mary J, Maxwell, Lauryn Hill, and Jill Scott, and on and on and on. So now we're in a position to compete and get back in the business with those artists.
Lionel, one thing I've seen you talk about is, like the Stevie Wonder, right? And one of the great things that he does is, I think, he has a requirement that like 25%, I believe it is, of his dates have to be, or at least of the revenue needs to go to Black promoters. How did that come about? And is that something that you'd like to see more artists do?
Yeah, Stevie is a very conscious Black man. And, he was a part of the civil rights movement. And I think he recognized inequities that are happening in the music business and on the concert side of it. And he wanted to make sure that Black promoters were able to get a piece of his shows. So in the past, he's made sure that for most of his dates that there's an African-American promoter or minority promoter, and that's women as well, are involved in his concert performances. And I think that that's admirable. And so, you have the We Are the World and the kumbaya that a lot of artists preach, right? But on the business side, maybe they're just not aware that they can do that they can make that happen. It's happened to some degree with Chris Rock as well. But there are a number of artists that recognize the Black promoters that started them and they continue to do business with them. So I will say that. So it's not all the African-American artists, but a number of the major ones are then bought out by the big rock and roll promoters, and they might not be aware that they could say, you know what, I want to carve out some business for the Black promoters.
Well, I think that's great that he, does that. And like you said, the artist has a lot, especially someone on that level that are, like a Stevie Wonder or, doesn't have to be that level, but they have a lot of weight in that power and, to negotiate that. And they can go to the promoter and say, this is, I'm happy to work with you, but this is how that relationship is going to work, and I think to your point, sometimes maybe artists in their personal lives maybe pursue a certain cause and are passionate about it. But then when it maybe comes to the business side, and maybe this is a bit of a generalization, but, they might be like, this is the business and, it will kind of take care of itself. But I hope, as we all spoke to, that it does become a little more intentional going forward and, allows people to compete in a more equitable way on a national scale. But I think the Black Promoters Collective also helps with that. I think that's an awesome thing because it's something that you're using the power of the many to kind of go up against these promoters that, maybe do have more resources.
Well, I don't even look at it as competing against them. It's just us doing what we do naturally. What we've grown to know naturally is that, we know how to communicate with our community. We know how to reach out to our community. We have a relationship in all these markets around the country with our community. And so we're just given the opportunity to execute all these wild and crazy ideas that we might have in order to sell tickets. And at the end of the day, we're in the ticket selling business and the customer service business. And we care about our community. And, I'm just afraid that sometimes artists sign up with groups and organizations that are not connected to the Black community, nor do they care about the Black community. They basically they take the money of the Black community, but they don't service it well. So, we're about, there'll be some charity components to what we do and just supporting our culture. And if you look at the history of the music business, Black people have created most of what popular American music is. So if you want to talk about the blues, you want to talk about jazz, reggae, hip hop, R&B, gospel, that's
rock and roll.
Well, yeah. And how could rock
Chuck
and
Berry
roll
out there shredding.
Chuck Berry, Little Richard. And so those are the prominent genres of music in America. And we as a people created that. And unfortunately, we haven't been in the majority of being able to profit from it. So it's like we own land with gold on it and someone else is mining the gold and keeping the money.
Yeah.
Well, Lionel, it's quite, a career you've had in this industry. We talked about nearly 40 years, right? Hard to believe it comes and goes real fast. But you and I have something in common. Both around 15 years old, wanted to be DJs and spent a ridiculous amount of time in record stores.
Yes.
Take us back to those early days in Oakland when mom's giving you some money to buy some records.
So there was this record store in East Oakland called the House of Music. And my mom used to take me there, and my mom loved music. She always played music around the house. And so my mom would take me to the House of Music, and she would allow me to buy 3 records, the 45s.
Yeah.
I can remember those. And so, I would buy those songs and I'd play them over and over and over. I had a record player in my bedroom, but just the love of music, my mom and my aunts and uncles and all their friends. And even my father, he had a love of jazz. And so music was always a part of my life. My father's jazz collection was pretty deep. It was a rather large one. And so just loving music, growing up in Oakland, Oakland culturally was musically rich. You had like Sly and the Family Stone was here, and Larry Graham and Graham Central Station. And then, the Whispers were here, and there are a lot of others. And then right across the bay in San Francisco was a large rock and roll community in the Haight-Ashbury and Bill Graham and all that. So the Bay Area was just culturally rich in that way. And then you mix all that with the Flower Children, and you mix that up with the Black Panthers, and you mix that up with the Hells Angels culture, and then the Oakland Raiders. And so you have all these different cultural phenomenons all meeting together at one time. And so it reflected in the music and in the culture in Oakland. So, that's where the love began. It began in home with my father and my mom taking me to record stores.
And then your uncle introducing you to the concert business, right?
Well, what my uncle actually did was he owned a nightclub and in Oakland, and it was a small nightclub, held a couple hundred people, had a small dance floor that could maybe hold 30, 40 people. And he knew of my love of music, and I wanted to be a DJ growing up on the radio because I thought they were the coolest guys. Used to listen to KDIA radio in Oakland. And my uncle actually hired me at 15 years old to be a DJ in his nightclub. And so I'd have to dress up like an adult. And, I had a little afro and the whole thing, but I'd have to dress up like an adult and go into his nightclub on Friday and Saturday nights. He paid me $50 a night and I would DJ.
That's good money.
Yeah. Yeah, it was real good money for a 15-year-old.
So you're there, and and you're getting exposed to dances and putting together your own events. And at this point, you're kind of like starting off at a very small level. Things like renting out a cafeteria for a dance, right?
Right. Yeah. So after working in my Uncle Shadrach's club, I want to shout out to him. He's going to heaven now. I wanted to. Well, actually, what happened was I was on the football team at Oakland High School, and I was a junior, and we were playing for the championship in football. We were an undefeated team. We were 9-0 at the time. We were playing against Skyline High School, who was they were 8 wins and 1 tie, so we're both undefeated.
Love how we remember those. We all remember those details, right?
Oh, most definitely. So you had a 9-0 team and an 8 win and 1 tie team going against each other for the championship. So my buddy Richard Dowdy had in his basement was a finished basement with a bar. So we decided to throw a victory party at his house. And, we planned this victory party before we even played in the championship game. And which was,
making it into fruition. You're like, it's
exactly.
going to happen. We know.
I remember the head cheerleader, Regina Goodwin, said to me, I'm going to order the cake for the party. Now, are you sure you want to put 10-0 on the cake? And I go, hell yeah, we're not losing. So that night we win the game. I think it was 13-6 or something. And we go to Richard's house and we have a big party. And God, you can go to jail for what happened that night, because we were the basement was packed. We had cases of champagne, chilled, and beer, and we had those little clear party cups, and we're selling drinks for $1 a drink. And but nothing got out of hand. Everyone had a good time. We were celebrating the victory of going undefeated, and that was really my introduction into throwing a party. So Richie and I had a disagreement about how the money should be split up at the end. So we came to a settlement. But I knew that I brought all those people there because I was on the football team. So I decided that I'm going to try another party. And I hooked up with one of my best friends, Mike Mitchell, and we went and found this girl who went to an all-girls high school, and we wanted her to invite all her friends. And we rented out the cafeteria of Merritt Junior College in Oakland Hills, and we threw our first party. And we profited $900. And I thought that was hitting the lottery.
I love how your first settlement is basically the same as every settlement ever since then. Right. you had a money dispute. It's like, I think this money should have gone here. I mean, that was like your first, dipping your toe in the water for the first time. And here you are. It was every cool. Settlement is a settlement. Yeah.
It just let me know that, wow, I was voted most popular in high school. So I knew a lot of people at other schools from playing sports. And, you just printed those invitations and invited people to the party.
So Lionel, how do we get from a kid throwing a party in a basement to, the point where it's June of 1984 and you are on the very cutting edge of the popularity of Run DMC and presenting a Run DMC show?
So I'm going to tell you how that happened. There was a DJ named Dr. Funk that DJ'd a lot of our popular parties for the high school and younger people's enjoyment in the Bay Area. And so at one of my parties that I was promoting, he played a song from Run DMC, and it was called It's Like That, and That's the Way It Is. And I liked the song, and the song was played on the radio, and it was a hot song. And so I wanted to promote Run DMC at one of my dance parties. So I was just trying to figure out how to do it. So I spoke to a friend of mine. Her name was Cynthia Alexander. She worked at Rainbow Records. It was a record store in downtown Oakland. And she said to me, I know someone that knows Run DMC. And so she introduces me to a guy named Roger Clayton in Los Angeles. And Roger was a DJ who ran this organization called Uncle Jam's Army.
Uncle Jam's Army, okay.
Uncle Jam's Army. And Uncle Jam's Army were like the West Coast version of the Wu-Tang Clan.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So they were a group of DJs and rappers, but they were party promoters. And in Uncle Jam's Army was Egyptian Lover, Rodney O and Joe Cooley.
Yes.
Yeah. DJ Pooh, and Roger, who was Uncle Jam, and they had a couple of hits out. Uncle Jam's Army did Dollar Freak, but Egyptian Lover, was banging in LA. I mean, he was, he was the LA, he was one of the first LA rappers. And DJ Pooh wrote the movie Fridays. And then there was the LA Posse. They were also in the Uncle Jam's Army. They were the guys who produced a couple of LL Cool J albums. So you had all those talented people in that group. So anyway, Roger drives up to meet me, and he says, look, I can bring you Run DMC. Let's promote the show together. And he said, I promote them already in LA. And so that's how I met him. And so we promoted our first show in June of 1984 at this place called the Richmond Auditorium. And that was my first concert performance. And I went, I like this.
Yeah. You get bit by, I mean, you obviously got bit by the bug a little bit with those parties, but I'm sure it was like seeing everything on this scale. It must have just been like eye-opening and like this, I got to do more of these.
Yeah. And ask me how much they made that night.
How much did they make that night?
Run DMC was paid $1,500.
No.
Wow. Things are a little different now.
Yeah. The next time I saw them, they were getting like 40 or 50,000.
Yeah, I bet. I bet that because it was
a couple of years later. Yeah.
Not too long after that, they were on stage at Live Aid, right? So,
Exactly.
So, I mean, here we go, right? Because this kind of is now things are rocking for you, and you're promoting. You're there on the West Coast. So's another guy, Bill Graham, right? So instead of looking at you as competition he needed to snuff out, Bill Graham thought, I want to work with this guy. Talk to me about how you first met Bill Graham.
Okay, so I first met him when I was in my first year of college. There was a seminar. It's called So You Want to Be in the Music Business. And that was the name of the seminar. And so I went to the seminar, my buddies and I, my partners actually, and Bill was there and with Herbie Herbert, who's the manager of Journey at the time. And there were a couple other people on this panel. And they just talked about the music business, all aspects of it. And Bill talked about the concert promotion side of it. And so he did something that was remarkable. He said, here's my office number. And he said, on Monday from 12 to 5, I will take phone calls from any of you that have questions. So I took him up on it and I called him up on Monday. And I talked to him and I asked him questions and I said, well, Mr. Graham, here's one question. I said, it's been said that you have a monopoly on the business. No one else can, promote shows here. And he said, well, I don't have a monopoly. I can't stop you from renting the Oakland Auditorium or the Paramount Theater. He says, but I can't help it if artists want to work for me because I do a good job.
Right. And
so technically that was not a monopoly. I remember, studying that in junior high. So we had a nice conversation. So I actually then saw him a year or two later at a Prince concert, and I approached him and I said, Mr. Graham, I'd love to talk to you. And he says, about what? And I said, about the business. Like, I really want to talk. He says, if I talked to everyone and wanted to talk to me about the business, I'd never have time to do anything. And so at that same Prince concert, I see him inside. I had floor seats, right? And I see him inside and I walk up to him. I said, hey, I really want to talk to you. And he says, hey, dig yourself, man. Don't you see that I'm working right now? And so, he kind of scolded me, right? So anyway, I didn't see him for another year or two. And at that time, Run DMC blew up. And they became this arena-sized act. They had played on the Fresh Fest, which was the first rap tour known in American history. They played on the Fresh Fest in 1984 and 85. Well, in 1986, at that point, they were ready to headline their own tour. And because I promoted them, I said to Russell Simmons' office, Leor Cohen, who's now the head of YouTube Music. I said to Leora Cohen, who ran the Rush Management, it wouldn't be fair for you to play this market without me. I started them here. And he said, I'm going to put you together with Bill Graham's office, and you guys can work on this show together. And I wasn't a full partner, but they paid me money to work on the show with them. And that's how I met Bill Graham. We played Run DMC in June of 86, and they came back in August of 86 at the Oakland Coliseum, sold out both shows.
Oh my gosh.
So Lionel, you're there and, obviously come a long way from that $1,500 payment for Run DMC, but you're working with Bill Graham Presents, right? So all of a sudden now, you've got this opportunity that probably, if I read right, came your way where Bill Graham looks like maybe he could have taken over, your production company at that point, but you kind of decided to continue doing your own thing.
Yeah. So when I met him, he offered to bankroll us, and we took him up on the offer. By the way, that when he made the offer, it was at the second Run DMC show, and so I waited 2 weeks to call him. And my partner at the time was, "Hey, we should call him." And I said, "No, we got to make him wait 2 weeks." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because I don't want him to think we're desperate."
Yeah,
even though I was desperate, but that's what an Oakland dude would do. An Oakland guy would be like, "No, I'm gonna make him wait 2 weeks." And so when I called him, Bill said, "What took you so long?" So I was right. Okay. But yeah, he offered us a deal that he would bankroll the concerts, and we split it 50-50. And so first couple of shows were shaky. He said, "Look, take your time. I think you're in a hurry to do something. Just pick the right thing and it'll be okay." And so as things got successful and we started promoting a lot of these rap concerts, because, he didn't do that and he didn't understand the urban space as much, he offered us an opportunity to come to work for him, which is what any guy like him would want you to do. But I turned him down. I said, "Bill, if I come to work for you, I'll then become you." I said, "I want to stay in Oakland and I want to be around the people and walk the streets and, and keep my mojo," is what I was doing.
Well, I mean, what an opportunity that came your way, and for you to have the guts to, keep on rocking on your own. And from here, right, you kind of start expanding from rap to comedy and then music, some other acts. So talk to me about, the kind of the transition there for you.
Yeah. So I want to be clear about something. When you say I was on my own, we still continued our partnership.
You had some good people you were working with, some great people.
Yeah. Bill and I continued our partnership, but I didn't want to be under his umbrella. And I just wanted to, which was probably a mistake because I might have been a partner when they sold the company. Even if I was a limited partner, I mean, that would have been good. They made out pretty well. Yeah. So from there, working with Bill, it allowed me to basically do what I wanted to do. And so I started promoting comedy shows, and people like Paul Mooney and Martin Lawrence and Damon Wayans and Robert Townsend. Those were some of the early artists that we promoted in the comedy space. And so there was a guy, Tony Spires, who founded this thing called the Bay Area Black Comedy Competition. And in his second year, my partner and I were able to make a deal with him where we came together to promote this, we call it for short, the Black Comedy Competition. And then there was a gentleman named Marcus King who was promoting his own comedy room. So all of us came together. We got involved with the comedy competition. And the first year that we were involved, Mark Curry, the actor comedian, won.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years later, Jamie Foxx won the comedy competition. People like Chris Tucker performed in the competition. D.L. Hughley took second place in the competition. So, that's how we got introduced to those guys, and we started promoting them on tour. And so for 18 years that Jamie Foxx toured the country, I was his promoter through the Oscar through, sold out shows in multiple theaters all over the place. So, but that all started with the relationship with Bill Graham.
So tell me about one of the great shows that you were involved with, or events, I should say, bringing Nelson Mandela to Oakland Coliseum.
So it was technically Bill Graham brought him because, it would take someone on of his magnitude to produce an event like that at Oakland Coliseum. But what happened was Nelson Mandela was freed from prison, and he wanted to come to America and thank America for supporting him and helping him. But he had no plans on coming to the Bay Area. Well, if we know our history, it was the dock workers in San Francisco who first decided that they wouldn't unload crates and freight, I should say, from South Africa. So that sort of began the embargo. It started right here in the Bay Area that there was a South African embargo economically, and that we are not going to do business with you, and to try to put economic sanctions on them because of their apartheid system. So I believe that Harry Belafonte and a few others invited Bill Graham to come to the African National Congress office in DC to plead his case on why Nelson Mandela shouldn't just go to New York or Chicago or whatever, but he needed to come to the Bay Area because we were the ones. It was our activism here. Like I said, home of the Black Panthers and the Hells Angels and the Flower Children and the Haight-Ashbury and all that, UC Berkeley. It was that whole movement that sparked the idea to have an embargo against South Africa. And so Bill went to the East Coast and he pled his case. And so Mandela came to the Bay Area. That was his last stop. And Bill called us up and said, we're going to involve you in that. And so we were in the room with all these prominent politicians and activists in planning that event. So it was one of the proudest moments of my life. And I sat maybe 50 feet directly in front of Mandela in the pit of the stadium at Oakland Arena looking at Nelson Mandela.
I'm getting chills hearing the story. Yeah. Did you ever have that moment in your career where you kind of were able to step back and pinch yourself and be like, wow, I really, really kind of got to this point?
Well, they say when you're in the midst of doing it, it's hard to sometimes to have a certain perspective. But I've had great moments. That Run DMC concert at the Oakland Coliseum was awesome. I mean, Stevie Wonder at Madison Square Garden, I was a partner on that. And Prince was in the audience and he came up and he played. He played with Stevie. He played a song with him.
Oh my gosh.
Tony Bennett performed that night too. He came up and sang a song with
Oh my gosh. You're amongst Prince fans here. More so Dave. Dave is he's like the all-time for
I'm up
Dave
there,
Elberger here. Yeah, he loves
him.
No,
I saw Prince. I used to like those smaller shows. So I saw him at the Warfield. I saw him at the Warfield Theater in San Francisco. It was like 2,500 seats. One of them things that they put on sale at 4:00 in the afternoon. And it sells out.
Yep. Right. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was there for that, and I saw him at the world famous Fillmore Auditorium in San Francisco at 3:00 in the morning. The show started at midnight, but I got the tip that he wasn't going on till 3. So I didn't show it.
That's good. It's good to have friends in the industry.
Right. Yeah. So everyone's there at midnight. But anyway, I've been involved in some wonderful things. Jamie Foxx on tour. And then watching him win the Oscar, because I was his promoter, I was kind of his shadow. I was one of the shadow managers because I'm always, Marcus King is his manager and Jamie King. And I would always be yelling advice to them every day on the telephone. So, but watching him win the Oscar, and then we're 5 blocks away in a nightclub, and maybe an hour and a half later, he walks through the door with the Oscar. That was a great moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Lionel, obviously an amazing run of shows that continues, right? And talk to me a little bit as we get ready to wrap things up here, but talk to me a little bit about your promotional philosophy, because one of my favorite quotes from you is, but, kind of talking about knowing how to promote a show to the community. And you said, quote, we talk differently, we walk differently, we act differently, we respond differently. Talk about the importance of knowing that audience and how to market to them.
Well, earlier we talked about the fact that Black people created all these genres of music, and that just means that culturally we see things differently. I mean, every culture is special in its own way. And so I'm just speaking about what's special about our culture, about Black culture. And so understanding it, that culture, coming from that culture, being engulfed in it, appreciating it, loving it, it gives me an inherent advantage when it comes to selling tickets to the culture, right? So, like today, there's a lot of digital marketing and there's a lot of, fancy technology and all that stuff. And, you can hire people to do that part of it. But the knowledge of your people, of how we walk, how we talk, how we think, what moves us, having that knowledge inherently is an advantage, and it's important. And it shouldn't be downplayed. It shouldn't be overlooked. And I think that artists are respecting, they've respected my company, Bay Area Productions, for years for having it, but in the Bay Area, right, in a few places around the country. But that is now transferred, that they're respecting the promoters in the Black Promoters Collective because they had that same passion and knowledge in their markets. And so now we are taking that and we're taking it around the country. So it's just important that I think that Black people in this country have been taken advantage of and have been used and abused to certain degrees. And that transfers into the music business as well. I mean, look at all the Black artists that have been ripped off and of their royalties. They're down on their luck and the manager gives them something to sign. Might not have been educated enough to know what they were dealing with. Some didn't even know what publishing were. They wrote the song, they get a $500 advance. And the song generates millions of dollars,
Yep.
So, yeah. It's just being from the culture and by the culture is important.
Well, that's why we were so excited to have you on today to talk about, the Black Promoters Collective, and which people can find that the website for that online where you can learn more about all the members, because there's a great team that you're there with. But speaking of great teams, Bay Area Productions, what are you guys doing in 2022? I know you guys are up to have a couple of big tours on the road.
Yeah, so Bay Area Productions, I still have a relationship with the Bill Graham office in San Francisco, and it went from SFX to Clear Channel Entertainment. Now it's Live Nation. So we promote a Memorial Day music festival here in the Bay Area called Stone Soul Concert. I brought that to their venue, 15 years ago. And so we've been producing it there at the Concord Pavilion at the Live Nation venue. And so that's what we have going on this summer. Other than that, with the Black Promoters Collective, we have Maxwell on tour, a great R&B singer, with Anthony Hamilton and Joe. And that's traveling the country for 24 cities. And we have the New Edition tour that's on the road for 30 cities coming.
That's a hot ticket right now.
Yeah, it's a hot ticket, and we had big sellouts in Atlanta and Detroit and New York, and it'll be coming up to the West Coast in a couple of weeks. So that's with Charlie Wilson and the reunion of Jodeci, which is one of the unheralded R&B groups. And then we have a string of dates that we're promoting with Patti LaBelle, Gladys Knight. I mean, just say that out loud. Patti LaBelle.
Wow,
and Gladys
I know,
Knight. Right. And Stephanie Mills is on those shows. And, so we're busy. And like I said, we signed Mary J. Blige. And so we're looking for a tour towards the end of the year with her, right off of her Super Bowl performance. And, I think that some of the artists in this genre, in the urban space, are taking notice of what we're doing in the concert business. And so we'll see what happens in the future.
Well, I'm so excited to see what happens, because it's been an amazing adventure, and we appreciate you sharing with us today. Hey, before I let you go, I want to hit you with our Fast Five. It's 5 quick questions, just looking for your instant, immediate response. First up, what was your very first concert?
Run DMC, June 1984.
There you go. How about your very favorite concert?
To promote or to view?
To view, just as a fan.
Oh God, I don't want to get in trouble, but maybe Parliament Funkadelic. I saw the Mothership Land, and they recorded Parliament live album in Oakland and LA, so I was there for that.
That is a great album. Awesome. I love that album.
Yes, it is.
How about your favorite place to eat in Oakland, and what do you get?
Well, my favorite place to eat was Flint's Barbecue. They're no longer there. And then Mexicali Rose, they're no longer there after 70 years in business or so. Oh. And then there was a place called Lady Esther's, and she's no longer there, even though her daughters are still cooking. But yeah, those were the places to eat in Oakland.
All right. How about one artist you'd love to book a show with? Who's on your bucket list?
Wow. Because I've worked with Stevie and Beyonce and Jay-Z and all of these guys. Lionel Richie even. I guess it would have been Prince.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's who it, I'll take that back. Prince would be second. It would have been Michael Jackson.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I used to, someone introduced me to him, and I used to talk to him about trying to book him, but it never happened.
You did a bunch with Janet, too.
Yeah. Yeah. The Rhythm Nation tour, we promoted 8 shows, Bill Graham and us in this market, and did a great job. So all in Northern California.
All right, last question for you. What is your theme song? So Lionel, you get your own TV show. Cameras follow you around all the time. What is the song that plays over the opening credits to the Lionel Bea Show?
Now that's a hard one. I'd have to go with some Oakland funk, and I'd say Too Short's Life is Too Short.
There you go. Lionel, if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to find you? What do you want to plug? Bay Area Productions, websites, anything like that?
Yeah, so the Black Promoters Collective website is something. We're redoing the Bay Area Productions website as we speak, actually. And I can be reached at Lionel B, BEA, Lionel B, BAP, like Bay Area Productions. Lionel B, BAP at AOL.com. So, but Black Promoters Collective, look for us because it's not just business that we're conducting. We want to be culturally relevant, and we want to do things that there are other aspects of entertainment that we will be involved in. And so we want to do some groundbreaking things. So a bunch of smart people are in that group.
Yeah, if you go to anyone listening, if you go to their website and look at the about page and see everyone that's associated, there's an awesome group involved. You among them,
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
It's blackpromoterscollective.com. Check it out there. And Lionel, again, thanks for the time today. We really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate being on, and you guys keep up the good work, and let's support music. The pandemic's almost over, and live shows are coming back.
Amen to that. And a big thanks to everybody for listening to this episode of Adventures in Venueland. Remember, you can subscribe and find more episodes wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We'd love your 5-star reviews so you can help others find us. Until the next adventure, I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. Thanks for listening, everyone. Adventures in Venueland is a side project of the Event and Arena Marketing Conference, a nonprofit organization bringing together people in the field of live entertainment to discuss marketing, publicity, and sales trends. Find out more at eventarenamarketing.com.
Audio editing and mixing by Camille Faulkner.
Design and digital advertising by Megan Ebeck.
Copywriting and publicity by Samantha Marker.
Guest booking and brand strategies by Paul Hooper.
Guest research by Dave Rettelberger.
Marketing strategies by Paul Hooper, Megan Ebeck, and Samantha Marker. Thanks for joining us. Until the next adventure.